Do you recall the first time that you attended the scene where someone had been attacked and killed by a crocodile?
I do remember the first one actually. It was a young Indigenous lady, and my name's Tom Nichols. I was born and bred in Darwin. I was in charge of crocodile management and Parks and Wildlife Commission. Always wanted to get into wildlife. In 1980, and I started with wildlife management with the Parks and Wildlife Commission, or in those days it was called the Conservation Commission. Crocodiles weren't really a big issue those days because there was only, the numbers were still coming back. They were supposedly, prior to that, with the surveys, they said there was only 5,000 or a bit more crocodiles left in the territory. So they were they were on Appendix 1, and they were also protected, obviously. So the crocodiles, we did very little crocodile work unless there was an incident or one getting too close. But there's no teeth there, see? Oh, you can run, eh? What?
You got a young leg.
Just, that's two of the only blokes that can't run.
Only us two on the trap.
You know, hold that, someone. We might even be able to use one or two of those when the other one's closed up.
Hang on.
Yeah, good work, slow and steady. Watch your foot.
Now remember, this has got to go underneath there.
Watch your footing. Yep. Broken. Hang on, need another one.
Okay, good. You got another one there? I was the first person to go over to Cape Don, which used to be a lighthouse. And the lighthouse became automation, so they ended up putting a ranger position there, and that was part of Coburg Peninsula, and that was paradise. It was actually, Cape Don was an island because you can go around the side, on the inside of it, and had a great time, great life there. And then from there I came back into town to Litchfield National Park, and I was the first person ranger there. They only just opened the place up. 91 I think it was, we started to get a few more fatalities or incidents with crocodiles, and that's when they decided to make a crocodile unit which specifies just in crocodiles itself. And that was done by Neville Haskins was in charge then, and I also got the second job, and we carried on from then, and yeah, I've been there 42 years now.
I got a call from Tommy. He said there's been a fatality at Adelaide River, and I said, what, the township or the bridge? And he was like, yeah, it's at the bridge. Can you meet me at the Croc shed? We'll have to go and get a boat and firearms. So we got the debrief of what we were looking for from the two police officers. That a man had been fishing on the bank. His lure had got snagged, and he decided that it was worth going in for.
That was probably the fastest recovery we ever done, basically because we had virtually instant, when after the accident took place, water police were called and told what happened, and then we went out pretty fast, and it wasn't so far out of Darwin either. So the police boat got there, people got there, and we talked to each other. Then we went over to where the incident took place. They showed it where it was, and it was underneath the bridge where the jumping crocodile is. And from there, and the police boat went down on the port side, and we was on the starboard side. And with Emma, there's Emma and myself, and there's two police officers in the other boat.
By the time we launched, it was, I'm going to say like 8 or 9 o'clock at night, so it was pitch black. And yeah, so Tommy and I took the eastern side of the river, and the two fellas took the western side, and we were just motoring down like really slowly. Tommy was up the front with the spotlight, and I was driving.
And it was strange too, because it's the area where the jumping crocodiles are, and we didn't see many eye shines. And as we was cruising down slowly, it wasn't that far from the bridge. I think it was probably 200 metres, I suppose. And it was in a nice little gully.
There was like a little channel, and Tommy was like, hold up, he's there. So he just told me to slow right down, And yeah, I just took the rebs right off, and he was just laying there. This massive crocodile was just laying in this channel with the body in his mouth. We could clearly see that he had a body, so we didn't want the crocodile to take off.
And I noticed the eye shine there, and I was pointing because we only go by just making directions in the without talking. And Emma headed towards that, and as we got a bit closer, I noticed the crocodile, and it was in a little mudslide there, and he's just sitting there, and he still had the body in his jaws. And I singled to head down to that area, and as we got closer, he started to move out a bit, and I fired 3 shots.
And yeah, we were able to motor right on top of him. He just laid there. Tommy, we got within, I'm going to say a couple of metres, maybe a metre. And Tommy just fired several shots straight into his head.
And the crocodile was dead. And police fisheries came over, and we put the body in a body bag. They took that back, and I towed the crocodile back to the ramp itself. And then I did an autopsy of that.
Yeah, and then we rolled the crocodile back over, and Tommy and I removed the crocodile's head. They wanted the head because they wanted to match up the bite mark. I mean, it was 100% clear that that was the crocodile that Tookie had the body, but apparently that's protocol. And then we got some straps and hoisted him up onto the back of the body, up onto the back of the police truck.
And it turned out to be Michael Jackson. That was the name of the crocodile. So
that earned his right to live on that river, to be the master of that space. He had several limbs missing, half limbs missing. He was albino, so even the fact that he survived at all is, huge. But for him to get to a 5-metre crocodile and be, we don't know exactly how old he was, but anywhere from, 60 to 80 probably, who knows. I don't know if Yuski ever looked at his bones to see how old he was. But he was incredibly impressive, and just to no fault of his own, he got destroyed. But he was good, for a couple of weeks after, he'd come in my office in the morning and be like, "You all right?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm good. So yeah, he was good.
Where there's been a human fatality, there is an obligation on police to investigate the circumstances of that death. Parks and Wildlife are the experts in that role, or wildlife rangers in that role, to assist police in determining that cause. As unfortunate as it is, the crocodile needs to be identified, captured and destroyed. Often where a croc has been identified as suspected of being responsible, the crocodile will be harpooned or shot depending on the circumstances. Once it's harpooned, it will be restrained and then destroyed, or it can be shot while free swimming or on the bank. It is the job then of the wildlife rangers to cut open that crocodile and do what's called a necropsy and confirm that it was the animal responsible. Now, to put it quite literally, that is cutting the belly of an animal open and removing a human from it. It doesn't get any more confronting than that. We do often get asked why crocodiles have to be destroyed when they're involved in a fatality. There are a number of reasons for it, but primarily it is the exact cause of death needs to be investigated on behalf of the coroner. Now, there are instances where there has been deliberate predation by the crocodile. There are other instances where there has been scavenging, which means that the person's cause of death wasn't the crocodile. They may have drowned, they may have fallen overboard, they may have been the body might have been dumped in the river, which has occurred. And crocodiles are scavengers, so they will feed on an opportunistic meal, or they will still just chew on something to work out what it is. So it is necessary to fulfill those requirements to give the family closure and to have the cause of death investigated to actually have the crocodile killed. Nobody likes doing it, but it has to be done so that the investigation can be carried out properly.
Just like that for now. Yep. This goes underneath. Tighten that up after. Yep.
The head's disproportionate to the body, Tom.
Yeah, he's not as big as he thought. Okay.
How do you deal with seeing someone who's been a victim of a crocodile attack?
Okay, look, I'd look at it a couple of ways. It's only recently something had changed a bit. Before, you feel sorry for anything because some of them have been young children and different age groups. I look at it this way, what we find, I've gone over it in my mind before when everything's finished, and the only thing I always say to myself, I said, well, it's a job, at least you found something for the closure so the family can have closure, and it hasn't really affected me in that way whatsoever. It's just that only recently there's been a young bloke that was a very close member of the family. When my young fella used to go to school together, they played rugby together, and he was not taken by a crocodile, but he could have been. We got him out the next day, police and us, and that's probably the only one where I had some emotional effect. Yeah, so, but other than that, but everybody is offered counselling, just like the police, whether you go through the police or you go through our parks and wildlife, they have counselling for any of those particular things. Yes.
Yeah. How do you pass on advice to new members of the team? Or
Well, I'd like to say we suggest the counselling, to go to the counselling first, but after that, I'm always talking to them.
Yes.
You know, how do you feel, and that type of thing, and you go because everybody reacts differently. Yes. So I'll talk to them. And also, I'm watching them at the same time to see what their mental state is like, if there's any changes in them. Otherwise, we recommend something else. But look, all of them have come through pretty good, and I just say, look, just remember, it's not your fault. You're there to help as much as possible. I said, don't go getting on the piss. When you're thinking about it, don't go taking drugs or do any stupid things, because you wake up the next day, it's still the same, nothing changes. So you just got to think about it, say, look, it's not your fault, nothing wrong with it coming back in your memory, but don't dwell on it. Daly River.
Yeah, that's the one.
The croc farm is a beautiful croc farm.
Yeah.
One of the best I've seen.
Yeah, feel like that's the bone, those are the osteoderms. Those are the sweet.
His lung capacity is so big.
Yeah.
I went to Catherine High, so...
He's exactly, he's over 4.
He's going to be 540.
I think he's a lovely man. I've got an absolute bucket load of respect for the gentleman. He's very quiet in nature, full of knowledge, and just a true Territorian. I think he's incredible. So March of 2009 was a Sunday, and it was the 15th. My kids and a couple of the neighbours' kids come over. We were swimming in the backyard pool, and the kids said, we're bored. We want to go for a ride on our bikes. We're going to go down to Black Jungle. And this was not something that was unusual. They would normally go down there. Usually it was with an adult, but at that particular time, my partner was working away FIFO, and he was coming home the next day. So I said to them, look, make sure you go and get mum, which is the other kid's mum, and, pack your towels into a plastic bag. Don't be too long. I want you home by 5 o'clock. Be safe. Watch out for cars. You know all the rules. Yes, mum. Love you. See you when we come home. It was about 4:30 that day that my neighbour turned up. which is the mum for the other kids, and it was like, what's going on here? Anyway, she says, I thought the kids were here with you. And I said, no, I thought the kids had come over to get you because they were going down to the creek. As we both jumped into the car to go and get the kids and give them a bit of wrath, another couple turned up in their van with 3 kids, not 4 kids. And just the look of terror through the window of the car, and the lady driving the car, she said there's been an accident and Brioni's gone missing. So very quick, and it is a little bit patchy still to this day about the events, but I know that Monica, my neighbour, and I raced down to where we knew the kids were, and there were police everywhere. They had rifles, they were in the water, they were on tracks, they were in cars. It was just chaos. The next day they recovered enough to say that it was a fatality. And yeah, so we lost my daughter on the 15th of March to a crocodile attack. And I met Tommy Nichols because he was involved in the search recovery for my daughter. I didn't realise at that time how much I would be involved with Tommy, but my natural process was to understand and educate myself as to how my daughter was able to be killed in such a manner when we're not reckless, we're not idiots, we're not Yahoo cowboys or anything like that. You know, the kids knew the risks, we knew the risks. We didn't expect that kind of risk in what we knew to be a 6-inch deep trickle creek.
A group of local people who'd been swimming there multiple times went for a swim, which was a normal activity, and the danger was not known. Young Brioni Goodsell was part of that group, and they entered the water there, and not knowing and not seeing was a crocodile waiting in that pool. And that crocodile very quickly took her life. In the dry season, Black Jungle is just speargrass really, and native bush, but in the big wet seasons it becomes part of the Adelaide River floodplains, and it is what in the dry season are just divots in the ground become wet season creeks, and these creeks can be 2 or 3 metres wide by 1 metre, 2 metres deep, and they're only temporary creeks for that peak few months of the wet season.
It happened it was on a Sunday itself, and I was at the presentation of the Nichols medal, which is the football medal, and that's my grandfather's. He started the NTFL. So I will never forget that particular one. I got a phone call from police at the time, and we met very early in the morning, the next morning, and but the creek itself was flooded, well and truly flooded when the kids were in there. And unfortunately, kids swim there, and that's one of those things that take place. They weren't supposed to, but they do it, and they still do it today, unfortunately. We went there early in the morning. We all went through our preparation of what we're going to do, and we started off where we had a line of blokes which were going down. We're heading downstream towards, away from the particular animal where the incident took place. There was police, went inside the channel itself, the creek. The water had dropped a hell of a lot. From the distance it was on, there was no rain after that night, and the water dropped a fair bit. So you had 2 police officers on the outside, both with firearms. Then you had 2 on the inside with sticks. They were trying to find find a body. We was on the outside on the line, walked along just to see what we could see, walking downwards. Probably about 3/4 on the way down, I was called over by the police, and they said, "Would you like to look at this?" And
So this was obviously a very tragic event, and what we need to realise is that police had to respond, rangers had to respond. Tom Nichols, Robbie Riss were both the rangers that responded to that, and it would have been an incredibly emotionally charged and confronting thing to do. The rangers and police were wading through water to try and find Brioni and the croc responsible, which is a credit to their dedication to the task at hand. And it would have been an incredibly dangerous thing to do, as well as being emotionally charged. People don't think that when they see a ranger in a khaki uniform that that's part of their duties, but it is, and it's probably an unspoken part of the duties. And guys like Tommy Nichols don't make a big song and dance over it. It's just part of what he does. But part of the work that the police and the rangers did were able to determine the cause of death, and that it was a crocodile. And you can only hope that that gives the family some sort of understanding on what's occurred, because at the time no one would have thought that would have happened.
After it happened, I was very much aware of what could happen. It doesn't matter where you are in the Northern Territory. If there is a natural body of water, heck, even sometimes the backyard pool is not safe, there could be, highly likely, there is a crocodile in there, whether it's a small croc or a big croc, a freshwater or a saltwater. There is the potential for a crocodile to be in any body of water.
Those crocs that do not have their own territory because they're not big enough constantly look for new homes. And when that wet season water comes up, the water spreads out across the floodplains, and with that spread goes what we call itinerant sized crocodiles. So these are crocodiles that might be physically sexually mature, but they're not big enough to mate, i.e. they're not in that 4 to 4.5 metre size class where they're getting a look in. So they're trying to find new territory because they're getting kicked out. Everything's bigger than them, everything's stronger than them. So that's where those crocodiles get displaced, and they end up in less than optimal habitats. Sadly, what's happened on this occasion is one of those itinerant crocs, 3 to 3.5 metres long, has ended up in a wet season creek on the edge of Black Jungle in Lambles Lagoon.
We had a discussion of, shall we go downstream? We had our chopper in the air. I went up in the chopper with a firearm, and all I saw was heaps of crocs. So there's no way in the world I could shoot. I can shot it with the crocs, but the trouble is we can't get them out, and I couldn't do necropsies on all of them. And so we didn't know, we need something to go on. And I met her mother, and who was an extremely strong lady. And it was a bit of a sad one, yeah. That was, especially how it went. They said that kids were in the water, and I think they were some of them were in a tree, and all of a sudden a croc surfaced. It wouldn't have been a good thing for everyone to see, or all the kids anyway. Tend to think, you always think about something. Every now and again these come up. I've done quite a few, and all I can do is say to myself, well, I could not stop it, but at least I had the opportunity for a lot of them that we could get closure for the family. And that's something which helps a lot. And I can understand it with, police do the same thing. Some people, everyone gets affected in different ways.
There are good days and there's bad days. Thankfully, now there's less bad days. There's a lot to live for. And Brioni was the kind of kid that if she saw me in this day, not being able to get up and enjoy the day because the sun's shining, or even if it is raining, who cares? It's a bit of water. Enjoy life, because tomorrow's not a given. Today is now. Live for now. And I do it because of her. I've got 2 other children. So I've got Bethany and I've got Brock. Bethany was with her sister when the accident happened. She has a lot of bad days, but mostly good days as well. And we as a family are very open about talking about Brioni and about what happened and about our future. And the moment my kids start talking about the future, it's good. It's good to hear, because tomorrow is not a promise. Never. I tell them to live for today. Yep. Life is fragile, but just because it is fragile doesn't mean we should stop living. I ask myself the question, how, why, if, and I just kept asking, if I had have known the location of where the kids were, would that have changed the actions of the day? Would it have meant that my kids were only allowed in a fenced area on our property? If crocodiles were an issue there, where else are crocodiles an issue? What don't we know about crocodiles? So I have a voice, I have a story. So we started raising awareness, talking to lots of people. Talking is a good thing. What I didn't realise that from me talking and sharing my story is that the crocodile management plan at that particular time was being revised. It meant that there was going to be more funding for the croc management team, which meant that Tommy was going to get more resources, that the team were going to be able to get more training, more facilities, more assets, whatever they needed to be able to do their job and keep us, as the public, safer. One of the most important things for me was the CrocWise program got reinstated, which meant that teams from Parks and Wildlife were able to go out to primary schools and secondary schools, childcare centres, shopping centres, exhibitions, and talk about CrocWise, how to be croc smart, which I thought should have been done. It was done many, many moons before Brione's death, but it stopped for some reasons. So for that to be reinstated, to me, was a win.
It was just one, and I do know that knocked him around a fair bit. Yeah. It knocked the whole community around, and that's the example I'm giving, that they're just innocent kids going enjoying the wet season. They would have swam there over the years, like everyone, used to swim. At that time, there happened to be a croc on the move, and yeah, it was horrible. I think the one thing people probably don't realise, the glory of catching crocs is a wonderful job, but the glory of catching crocs after a fatality, I think it affects Tom the most. He loves his crocodiles. He enjoys what he's doing, but the fact that you lose someone either through an accident or a stupid act has consequences to everything. And I know Tom never talked about it in depth, but I did know that it certainly affected him, that he'd be out there, he'd be cutting the crocs open, looking for any traces of what they're looking for. Working alongside with police, obviously. And then for, like every road crash, the ripple effect, as I keep talking about, you got family, extended family, how it affects them. So rescuing or getting someone from a croc is the same experience that he would have gone through.
Each day is each day. It's a blessing. Some days are hard, really hard, and you've got to drag yourself out of bed, and you've got to paint this smile on your face. But do you really? If you're having a shit day, have a shit day. Allow yourself to have a shit day, and then get on with it. You have to.
So in the early 90s, you're saying there's a few fatalities which caused the creation of a more specific unit for managing just crocs.
Yep.
So, and that's till today, that's pretty much what that unit does?
That unit does exactly that now, and it's doing a bit more too.
Yep.
And they also assist scientists when they do croc surveys. We got in Darwin Harbour itself, it's what we call a no crocodile zone. So no tolerance. So every crocodile which is seen in that area is removed, regardless of size. So we have permanent traps set up in that area, and also we do have done harpoon runs in the past too, and still do them.
Gotcha.
And outside of that area, we work on, especially during the wet season, we've got areas where we put those croc traps just in there for safety.
Yep.
And we catch a number of them there for the simple reason that every one of our freshwater systems in the top end, they all join up with the saltwater, so you've got saltwater crocs moving into all different areas.
So there's so few crocodiles in Darwin Harbour as possible. And there hasn't really been an attack in Darwin Harbour over that whole period, which has vindicated the program. And meanwhile, the crocodile population outside has grown up to what we think it was at the time of protection. So it's been a very successful management of a complex predator. And Tommy and Neville Haskins and these guys were just with us often, you know, all the time in doing the surveys, and I guess we learn a lot from each other in those early days.
Oh no, maybe the eagle took that.
Oh yeah, it's not really sprung.
Yeah. I've got to bring one of those things to put on there. Normally this one wasn't a problem. We don't clean it here. Just check it, make sure there's nothing in there though. Well, there's nothing in there anyway.
And he accidentally touched the croc, and the croc reacted to the touch, which was Tom's hand, and bit half his hand off.
He jumped and he grabbed me on the arm itself, and then thank goodness he let go there, but then he grabbed me on the side. Now with the crocs, every time they grab something they do their little spin, death spin, or they jump out of water, but they do their death spin, and that's what done the damage. That ripped everything out, ripped this part of my arm, hand itself, and also 2 fingers. So that took that out. And the exchange fireman done a great job. He took photos of everything. I've got photos of my hand still hanging in the croc's mouth. He even come to the hospital, took photos of me in the hospital, but anyway, great. Anyway, well, we still got the croc. I ended up putting the croc back into the trap itself. Yeah. It hit so hard, because with a crocodile they got 1 ton pressure when on their closure, and it hit so hard that there was hardly any blood.
Tying the croc off, he had a snout rope on, a 12mm snout rope on the croc, and he was busy applying like a 4 or 5mm rope to the bottom or the top jaw to tie the jaws together.
I drove back to which wasn't far from the trap, to Sadgraves Creek, the boat landing itself. And as we're going along, I rang up work and I said, "Oh, can you arrange for someone to come down and meet us at Sadgraves Creek?" She said, "Okay, I'll ring Tommy up." I said, "I am Tommy." I said, we didn't have too many blokes around those days. So I ended up ringing Neville, who actually left the commission then, and he was working with police. And he came down and he went out, because I put the croc back into the trap.
And then Tom rang me up and said, "Look, there's been an accident." He didn't tell me the nature of the accident, but I have to come in and collect the French guy and take him back to my office.
I didn't feel any pain until we got to the landing, and that's when it hit me. The pain hit me then, and the ambulance turned up, Neville mob turned up, and they caught the croc.
Parks and Wildlife crew turned up, and boat was there, tied alongside the boat ramp, and it established the crocodile was still had a snout rope up and tied to the trap. So Parks and Wildlife then asked if I could go out and tie the crocodile up. But of course I was not employed by Parks and Wildlife at that time. And they said they don't have anyone experienced at the time. So I said, okay, so we all went in the boat and went back out. I tied the croc up and brought it on board. It was about 3.4 metres. It was a female that I recall. And females are always more aggressive and very difficult to deal with.
They told me to grow back, but it hasn't grown yet. So.
He's a few years older than me, not as good looking.
It's funny, a couple of people already said that.
Yeah, the old rooster.
He just loves it. I mean, he's world famous from what I can see. Hey mate, yeah. And it's just been his life. He just always loved that sort of work. Like I said, when we first got him to come and apply for the position and all that, I sort of getting him over from the dark side, and he just fitted straight into that niche, and he just loved it. And the longevity speaks for itself, mate. He just loves the work, and good on him.
But my possible concern is that somewhere along the line, you've got to let go and accept that it's getting harder to do, because it's a very difficult job. It's not an easy job. It takes a lot of strength. So, you know, if you're a person short and you've got a large croc, it's not easy.
Yeah, for sure.
And your reflexes aren't as quick as they were when you're younger.
Yes.
So that side of it does worry me.
Yeah, of course.
He's addicted to it, I believe. He loves the job and is finding it very hard to retire.
And, you know, I'll bump into Tommy at the shops and it's, hey, how you going? We always have a chit chat. Don't seem so much these days because I'm always farming and he's always working. He should be, you know, slowing down, but he doesn't seem to have that slow down button.
Any advice that you'd give someone starting out or wanting to become a ranger in the territory?
That is a hard question because things have changed so much from when I started to what it is now. Actually, because when I started, things were different, and to what it is now, it's harder to adjust to. But if you're a young fella coming in, it's pretty easy, you know, like that, especially with the degrees you're supposed to have these days. Look, I wouldn't even get a job now if I went for it, you know. But and that's the way things were in those days. It's changed so much. Look, yeah, I don't think I could probably give them any special stuff other than enjoy and make the most of it. I still enjoyed it, and like I'm just about gone now, and I'm missing it. But you know, things have to come to an end.